right, we're live. Yay.
Let me check my heartbeat. Bum, 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 bum. Yep, I'm alive.
There you go. Metal heartbeat. You see
Metal,
what I did there?
yeah.
Metal resilient heartbeat. Every time, the last time we talked on record, David, I got not just a musical education, but I got a actual education. Number one, I got to learn how to say the word cacophony properly. That's number one. Yeah. That was a nice little slip up. And number two, I learned what a Bangalore missile was, a Bangalore
Torpedo.
bomb. Yeah, torpedo. Yeah, exactly.
If you watch Saving Private Ryan, he calls up, bring up the Bangalores, and they screw the pipes together, put under the Constantine wire and blow it.
Yeah. But that movie was 97, right? That was after the band, right?
Yeah.
I think.
But my brother,
Your brother.
being a Marine.
Oh,
yeah, he's call it Bangalore, man. I go, what is that? It's a city in India or something, isn't it? He goes, no, there's a city in Maine called Bangalore, but it's a torpedo, dude. It blows shit up. And I go, oh, explosive vocals.
Well, that and your last band kind of blew up too before that, so it kind of worked out, right? Oops.
Yeah, I'm a walking powder keg.
You're a torpedo.
Yeah. I'm the hate torpedo.
No, I don't know about that. Time heals all wounds.
Name.
Yeah, hate torpedo.
Hey, yeah, that'd be great, wouldn't it?
There was a band called Hatriot. It has it still exists actually. I don't know if you heard about it. Steve Zett from Zetro from Exodus. He was in it for a while. Hatriot. It looks like Hat Riot, but it's Hatriot instead of Patriot.
I'm sure. Yeah. I wonder if the Japanese how they pronounce that is probably as easily as trying to say Bangalore Choir.
Hey, try it. Hey, try it.
Try it. And Bangalore, it's everything that's R is L and vice versa. So
Bangalore, qui are
And the Germans always say Bangalore Chore.
Yeah, chore. Yeah, your Bangalore chore. Doing your chores.
Choir, and they go choir. It's not their fault. I mean,
I know. Lock and roll craziness.
Rock and roll, party night.
Exactly. How did this? Wow, we got off track pretty good. That was awesome. We're done. We're done here. I know we talked so much. We talked so much last time about your whole career. Obviously, this is going to be about Bangalore Choir, but this time I'll start with the new stuff, like the brand new record. So, last time we talked on the record, Iron Allies was the big project, and I know it still is, and we'll talk about that in a sec too. But it came as a surprise to me that I saw a press release and some Facebook posts about a new Bangalore Choir CD. So talk to me about how that got started and basically why you decided to record a new one in 2023. Got my date wrong.
Oh, excuse me. Pardon. Pardon.
Pardon.
Mi scusi.
Scusi.
Weird. I've got a solo band. And all the guys live here in my village in Italy, Piacenza. And they're phenomenal players, great. They're younger. I could be their dad. I'm not going to lie. Yeah. But they're just fabulous guitar players, producers, everything. And during COVID, I got kind of stuck in my village. And then my wife had found out about this studio that Riccardo Di Morosi owns with another guy. So I went down and met him, and we clicked. Well, slowly things grew. I was doing demos for Iron Allies there because I couldn't go to Mario Percadani's studio, 30 minutes away. And I did probably 80% of Iron Allies with Riccardo, the vocals. And I started realizing the kid had talent as an engineer and producer. So then I started realizing he's a pretty damn good guitar player and bass player. So I brought in these two brothers. Now that developed Niccolo Saldinelli, who's the guitarist on the Bangalore record now, and in my solo band. And his brother Nelo is the drummer, who actually now is the drummer in Iron Allies because Francesco had to take a hiatus due to family reasons.
Okay.
And it blew my mind, but I understand Francesco's life comes first and family. So we were kind of like, what am I going to do? And I said, well, I called literally every drummer I could think of. And because I'd asked Nelo, he played on some of the demos for Iron Allies. He just, can I play to that? Well, I was singing. I said, yeah. Well, Herman had said, who's that kid playing drums? And I go, that's the guy that I work with in my solo band. He goes, he's good. Well, I'd actually went around him, and talked to some pretty heavy cats around Europe, but everybody was on tour and they wanted to play with Iron Allies, but they're like, man, I'm only available, blah, 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 these days. I'm like,
no.
Anyways, back to Bangalore. Being as they were my solo band, I went to Hamburg last September and played a festival at the Markthalle for Oliver Lange, the promoter. And we showcased Bangalore Choir, David Reece solo albums. And we played Friday night of a 3-day festival and we sold it out.
Nice.
We had on this album, Center Mass, you realize there's some live tracks on it. Those were recorded that night. And Eric Uris joined us on lead and rhythm guitar as well on that live show. Another great guitar player. Saxon sound man, Jackie LeMan, was doing sound for that weekend. And he asked me, he goes, you want me to record tonight? Because I heard sound check. And I'm like, oh my God, this is insane. I go, yeah, how much? And we agreed on a price. So we recorded it. And when we listened back to the band, I went, man, that's really good. So everything kind of started spreading again. The brand, the name, and I'd released the 3 CD set thing like a year before.
Yeah, the box set with the 3 records. Yeah. The first one, Cadence and Metaphor, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And then we found Beyond Target, I think it's called, the unreleased demos.
Yes.
Somebody had shanghaied me during the recording process that we had let go from the band. They snuck into the vault and said, yeah, Dave told me to pick up the masters and stole them. So they tried to, hold me hostage to buy them back. And I'm like, nah, I'm going to call the law. You can't do that. So I got them. So we basically put a lot of the songs that I really wanted on the first album on Beyond Target. That came out at the same time, double album, triple release. And it just started moving and people asking me, hey man, what's going on? And then after we played that gig, Giles Lavery said, why don't we do another Bangalore record? And I'm like, man, I'm really into this Iron Allies thing. I don't know. And he's like, Dave, do it. We got momentum. So, but they said, I want you to go as far back into On Target as possible. And Chad, trying to honor 30 years of the past and try to get some of that vibe, it's tough.
Yeah.
So I had written 3 or 4 songs with Mario. Without You, Back to Life, Heat of the Night, those songs. And I revisited that and said that would fit. Reached out to Christian Tola. He had Spirit Rider music. Ricardo had put in some of his ideas. Talked to Jimmy Bell from Autograph. He contributed a track. And then I reached out to Martin Cronlund, because Reese Cronlund and all that. Yeah. So I Just Want to Love You came out of that.
It's a great ballad. You have history with Autograph members too.
Huh?
You have history with Autograph members as well too, Steve.
I do. Plunkett. Steve Plunkett, yeah. I mean, Angel in Black. Circle of Silence. He and I. It didn't really go so well, the production side of it, but I got to say, Steve Plunkett's one of the greatest rock pop writers I've met. He's got that knack to turn up the radio, of course, and all that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But as a producer, he wasn't right, because I had Greg Chase on from Badlands in the band at the time, and Greg looked at me and goes, man, I'm a blues bass player, a rock guy. I'm not going to do this. I'm out. And so we moved on, and Jim Barton from Queensryche, who had done the remix on the first Bangalore, I called him and he fixed it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's how it kind of just happened. And it's kind of retarded for me to say. I know that's not the correct word to use anymore, but
yeah,
I was so enveloped in the Iron Allies thing that I had forgotten that I'd recorded the Bangalore record.
Well, that's the thing. That's the reason I started asking. That's why I was surprised. I'm like, we just got so into Iron Allies. There were singles, there was releases. You were all in, and not that you can't still be, but it's just I wondered, did he have a problem with this? You starting to work on Bangalore right in the midst of this Iron Allies?
He does Victory.
True. Yeah.
He's full on into that too, and that's kind of the world we live in right now. Unless you're Metallica or a Priest, you got to have
side bands. Yeah.
Well, and then
even Richie has a side band. You're talking about Priest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Elegant Weapons. And
Yeah,
how many
exactly.
bands is Romero in? Romero's doing, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a little.
Oh, he's doing
I
Rainbow.
yeah, I mean, but
Yeah.
look what Rainbow did for him. I mean, I know the
Exactly.
story of Romero was brought into Spain by a really good friend of mine, doing a Deep Purple tribute thing, and was sleeping on his couch. And one day he woke up and he was gone, and looked on Facebook and he couldn't find him, and there he was in Rainbow. I mean,
Oh
it
God.
was terrible. He just left and joined Richie's band, and
When Richie calls, you better answer.
answer the phone.
Yeah,
So I
exactly.
get it, but
Yep.
I was a little concerned also about overkill, because I've done a lot of work in the last 3 years. But COVID kind of put me in that position, and
Mhm.
I'm a songwriter, dude. I mean, to be honest, these guys, there's no drama. I mean, they're hungry young cats, and when we rehearse, I mean, I'll go to rehearsal, and they've already been there and played through the set at least 2 times, and they're really good at that tech stuff. Like taking certain sounds up, like "Eat the Heat." They'll get sampled sounds off the record. They know how to do all that stuff. These young kids, right? And they'll put it in a backing track.
Yeah,
and
sound
make
bites,
it really
whatever.
sound like the album.
Yeah.
It's not we're not lip syncing, but
Yeah. But
so then I'll go
live.
and sing
Yep.
the 90 minutes, and I'm like, oh, okay, what are you guys doing now? And they go, oh, we're gonna hang around and play the set a few more times. So when I go on stage with these guys, it's like, damn. I mean, they even correct me in rehearsal. The drummer will say, Dave, you're not singing that right. It goes like this. I'll be like, what? So it's good for me.
Yeah.
But Back to Life was kind of like the first single that came out. And Mario had written that music for Johnny Gioeli when he was in Hardline. And I said, after I listened, I said, thanks. I wanted Without You. I wanted Heat of the Night.
Yeah.
And then Blame It On Me was kind of written off the cuff by Mario with acoustic. He was going to put it on one of his solo albums. And I said, can I write to that? And he said, yeah, go ahead. Well, Back to Life, Gioeli didn't like the music. And I said, man, that's on target. I mean,
that's the most on. Well, that and maybe Heat of the Night might be the most, if you want to go that way, on target of Bangalore.
Yeah, that's what the dilemma was. And then I was blessed I reached out to Ian Mayo, the bassist from the On Target era.
Yeah.
And he's doing movies and stuff. He works for that Tyler Perry guy.
Does he?
Hollywood.
Okay. Wow. That's a big deal then.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing his comedy and recording soundtracks. I mean, he's been doing it for years. So, but he still plays. Whereas the other guys, they're not doing anything but teaching and smoking weed. I mean, that's what they do. They don't want to tour anymore. But Ian said, "Yeah, I got this tune," and
he has a credit on the record, I think, right? On the new one, he has a credit. Yeah.
Back to You.
That's it. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the press release too here, trying to look through it as well at the same time, but look at you at the same time.
It was nice. It was nice to reconnect with Ian. We've always had a pretty cool relationship. He actually got my apartment from me when I moved in Hollywood. I gave him my place because he was homeless. I said, "Here, take my apartment." So,
take it. That's cool. Well, you knew that was going to be my next question. Was there any thought? I'm sure there was, and you just mentioned there kind of was. Were you going to reach out to Danny, to Ian, to John Kirk, other people who have been in the band or appeared on record? Was there anything besides Ian?
After doing Firefest in 2010, Kurt Mitchell, I don't know if I told you this story, but
possibly,
I hadn't seen him for 19 years.
Yeah. So
here we are. The rules for Firefest were at least 3 original members. So Danny, I talked to him. I said, we got this festival. We got to play it. They're all really on me, but I need 3 guys, at least 3. He goes, I'll call Kurt. Kurt said, no way. Then he said, yes. And then he said no, like a week before the show, and the tickets were bought. And I'm like, man, you can't do this.
No.
So we met at Heathrow Airport, and it's like really weird. It was awkward. And we'd aged and, not seen each other because, when we got dropped, I mean, we just dispersed.
Everyone went their separate ways, right?
Yeah. And he's been doing the Learn to Burn videos at the time and, basically doing psychotic Nuno Betancourt riffs, his own music,
right,
which I loved. But he said something to me down in the dressing room before the show. He looked at me and he said, I said, we should do something if this goes over. And he goes, Dave, I really didn't want to do this, and I'm going to tell you why. When I go out into my yard and I stand in my bare feet, I'm standing on my grass. I turn around, that's my house, and that's my recording studio. It's not the record companies. I don't owe anybody anything. And I'm doing what I want to do. I'm glad to be here and play with you. We recorded the show live, made a live album out of it. It was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But he just told me my heart's not in it. And it's crushing because he's a genius. The guy's a genius. I would love to have had him involved on this, but it's not even worth the phone call.
He couldn't have written with you, like, even if he didn't, because now you can do tracks, you can do files across the world, right? He wouldn't contribute as far as writing and playing, even if he couldn't be in the same room with you, just to have him on the record.
No, it's not that. It's just more like, I don't want to do this. I mean, there's no financial incentive for him. He's got 30 students daily.
Wow.
He was never a rock guy for touring. He's a real family guy and wants to stay home. He'd get homesick. I mean, second day he was moping around, and he's been with the same girl since like high school. It's just not his thing. And he'd rather, I mean, he was telling me in the basement of that festival that he had met some like 10-year-old girls that were basically teaching him how to rediscover guitar. He goes, via the internet. He goes, there's people out there that I'm learning basically guitar again from these kids that are doing things, 7-string guitars and all this madness. I'm just not into it.
Right. For the live show, but just to clarify though, he didn't want to participate on this record at all either, though. Like, is no touring. Just okay. You didn't ask him. Okay.
No, I didn't want to open that box. I mean, I knew it would be, yeah, cool, maybe, and then no commitment, and then no conversation for a month, and then with Ian, it was like, hell yeah, man, I got some stuff. This would be cool. Ian was always go, go, go. So yeah, it was more of like, just let the water go under the bridge, and I still respect him beyond. I can't tell anybody enough how much I love his musicianship, and I love him, but it's different,
Yeah, no, it's good to hear you still have a good connection, or you had a good connection. There's no beef, there's no bad blood. But do you think him?
Nah.
Do you know him well enough? If he looked around and saw there's a new Bangalore Choir CD out and he's not on it, do you think he'd care?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think Danny Greenberg, who actually played on the album on Target, I spoke to him all the time, and he's kind of vanished. He's living in New Mexico, and I really don't know where he is. I've checked. I tried to reach him actually on this. I said, to see what he was up to, and I couldn't find him. But Ian was
right in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did Kurt and Danny play on Cadence as well as Metaphor as well?
Yeah.
Both of them?
Yeah, okay. They played on that. They contributed, and Kurt wrote some songs for Metaphor, which was the weakest of the three, if you want to call it a reunion.
I haven't heard that one, so I can't say. That's the one I haven't heard yet.
Some of the songs to me are fantastic. They just didn't resonate. Maybe because we grew, both of us musically, it just didn't have that, Well, when Bangalore was signed, we had the corporate monster behind us and the managers and all that, we're going to do this. I mean, like, say Loaded Gun. When Kurt heard that, it was written by the bass player from Styx. I can't remember his name. Jim.
Was that Pinozzo? Chuck?
No, not the Pinozzo brothers. It was the guy that's in there now for years. Fantastic songwriter.
Oh. Yeah, his name escapes me now. I don't know. Not the new guy. I don't know. Yeah.
He submitted it to Howard Kaufman, our agency, saying, I've got this. They asked him, what do you got? We need a single. And when Kurt heard that song on demo, he said, I will never play that song. So we got the Gestapo came in and looked at us all and said, if you don't record this song, this record's going to bomb. And it turned out to be a pretty successful semi-hit on radio. We were wrong. I didn't really like it either. But now
was that the one that had the video? That had the video, right? Loaded Gun in the barn?
Yeah, I mean, It was like on Tuesdays, radio day, right? In those days.
Used to be, yeah.
112 stations added the song that day, first day.
That's
so Danny Rosencrantz, he called me in and said, you got a hit, kid. Congratulations. I'm like, what? Told you. I'm like, okay. And then a month later, Nirvana put the anvil and dropped it on her head.
Yeah, exactly. I want to get back into the past with you as well too. But first, a couple more things on the new record. So talk to me about naming it Center Mass, the art, the cover work. Talk to me about how that came together.
That was me. On target, center mass. I'm a shooter. I'm an avid sportsman with guns. I like to hunt, fish. I like to shoot for relaxation. That's my thing. And center mass is, aim small, miss small.
Yeah.
My original concept for the album was a woman's torso cut open, animated with the heart and the scope on her heart. But the artist that did it, Hugh,
cool.
he started. Yeah, it was pretty morbid though. I started getting like autopsy photos.
That's gonna get some.
Yeah, I literally had autopsy
like real
photos sent to me.
Photos
yeah,
sent
and
to you,
I was
and
like,
make them
no,
cartoon style.
not a real naked dead woman. I'm talking about like
God.
animated. And here's the record. I'm like,
not in this
Giles
PC
said,
world. Yeah,
yeah, we're not going to get into the PC problem here. So
yeah.
Giles,
oh God,
kind of
that's
regrouped
hilarious.
and got the girl to be painted, with the pistol and
with the Dick Tracy hat on.
Yeah,
that's what it reminded me of.
Little
Like
bit
a
of
female
a beer
Dick
gut.
Tracy. Yeah,
yeah, a little beer gut on her. Kind of shapely.
Yeah, she looks good.
Yeah,
Get some attention.
I'd do her.
There you go.
But,
me too.
like
I like Jessica Rabbit. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, we all had a crush on Wilma. Let's be honest, and Betty.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But, we fixed that pretty quickly. But it's funny because the album was released yesterday, and I don't know how many people have messaged me saying
it was only released. Wow, I thought it was released a while ago. Wow, my time's off.
Yesterday.
Oh wow, that's fast. Because I've had it for a bit.
yeah,
I've sat on it for a while.
Obviously the optics work because people are wanting it on a T-shirt. The colors, the way it pops. So, I think it was the better choice. I mean, I had it in my head, but this guy took it way over the. He was on the edge of the cliff and he jumped.
Well, it's collaboration, right, back and forth. You had an idea. He came back with this. You're like, dial it back a bit. That's okay.
I was all for it, but then
I
got the PC police caught after me, and I was like, they go, dude, you realize what you're doing, right? What's going to happen? I'm like, what? Look at all these death metal albums. They're like, dude, Bangalore.
Well, exactly. You can't read their logo, but you can see what's on their album cover. What the hell? Unreal expectations. I was surprised by this last time we talked when you said it on record that you'd never done, and all the records you've done, and there's about 1 billion of them, but you've never been on Frontiers Records. I'm surprised Frontiers didn't get their paws on this.
Yeah, it's a weird
Nothing against
thing.
Cherry Red, but I'm just surprised that this never came up, or they never came to you and said, "Hey, give me some Bangalore Choir, give us some David Reece solo in that style." I'm still shocked at that.
I don't understand.
Never offered you a deal or an advance to do something.
It's a weird business, Chad. There's enemies lurking amongst us. There may be some animosity somewhere. I will say that I'm talking to them right now. They're really interested in me.
Well, they should be.
Some other stuff that I'm doing with some certain individuals. So that was kind of a surprise. I'm like, well, they never really even answered my emails up until now. What do you mean? And so things change.
Very surprised at that, but at least, hey, well, you're talking now, so that's good news to share. Yeah. Thank you for that.
I mean, I don't have any Frontiers animosity. I always thought it was a weird thing too. I mean, I see a lot of things get released by them, and I thought, well, I'm kind of right up their alley. I don't know why.
100%. And they release far inferior stuff. I can say that as a fan. They've released stuff that shouldn't be released, and they've got a lot of stuff that you'll never see perform live. It's a lot of great players playing a lot of great music that sounds the same. I mean, I know there's probably a hindrance. You probably wouldn't be able to write as much or at all with them. I know there's that complaint because that guy writes with them, Alessandro Del Vecchio.
No. Not this thing that I'm talking about.
Okay, well, that's good to hear.
No, it was nothing against Ali. I love him. I've known him for years. I mean,
you know him too, and still nothing is coming. Wow, it's more shocking.
He played some gigs with me. We did some shows with Ian Pace, Deep Purple tributes, and he played keyboards and sang all those, at stratosphere high notes on Child in Time and stuff.
Yeah.
Which he's really good at.
Yeah.
And on the way back from Switzerland, I had, I think it was Cacophony, and I played him rough mixes of it. He goes, who's this signed to? I said, I haven't really figured it out yet. He goes, I want to put it on Frontiers. This is great. I said, pass it on. And then nothing really happened. So I went back to El Puerto.
Yeah, and then you did, for those who don't know, who can check it out, Blacklist Utopia was also on El Porto, was it not? Your latest solo record?
Guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love those guys. I mean, I did a podcast the other night and Matt joined in on it and was saying hello. And yeah, good people. Really, really one of the labels that I can say that, you know, when they say they're going to do something, they do it. They're really good with media.
Mm-hmm.
You can talk to them on the phone, call them, and they'll answer, and just, you know, grievances or whatever pleasure you can do, you know, within reason.
When they care about your brand, they care about the sound of your brand of David Reece. There's a brand that comes with that, right? And they care about what you're putting out there. They don't want to just have your name on a record.
I feel respect from them, which being in this business, there's not a lot of that going around. So
yeah,
but I feel that with AFM too. I mean, I've developed a really strong relationship with them since Iron Allies. So yeah, I try to keep it as real as possible, you know. And with Giles and you know, Global, I think they did a partnership with Cherry Red. I was unaware of it. And then I know that Giles is moving on to a higher position. So he has said, we need to do another Bangalore record. So I'm kind of writing that right now.
Another one in addition to Center Mass, like another brand new one. Wow.
Yeah, I have 4 or 5, and then I'm writing new stuff for Iron Allies. And
you don't stop,
Chad. Go ahead. I'm blabbing.
No, I was gonna say you don't stop as far as working. You're just you're a machine. I don't think even COVID slowed you down. I think because we talked just after, if I have my date correct, in 20, well, it was a little bit after that, but you had already written Cacophony of Souls. You had already done Blacklist Utopia. You were just starting Iron Allies. That's 3 records in the can in 3 years almost, I think. And now you just did a Bangalore Choir CD that came out of nowhere to me and other people. So it's never stopped from what I can tell. Before that, there was a bunch of solo records, Resilient Heart, Universal Language, the projects you did, Tango Down. Don't want to go down that whole rabbit hole again about your whole career, but you know what I'm saying? You've done a lot.
Well, I say it a lot. I got this really weird paranoia about mental blocks, and I haven't had one. I know guys that do writer's blocks. Mm-hmm. So I'm a firm believer in either rehearsal or scribbling down, even if it's a dumb idea, just put pen to paper every day as much as possible. Try to maintain a family life, try to maintain a music life.
Yeah.
Music life, communication, because this business, as you know, what you do, it's emails, and you know, it never ends. And
yeah,
it's like, I think I told you once, it's like I've got a box of squirrels in my head, you know, storing ideas, and it's a little nuts. I find that if I wake up, the best time for me and creative is the minute I wake up and the first cup of coffee, or in the middle of the night for that first piss. If I don't record that idea,
I'm up all night too. Anyway, I'm a night guy.
I sing at the phone. Yeah. And I'm lucid, or whatever the word is, and I don't have the day's chaos or the news of some stupid blunder around the world that seems to creep into my thoughts, or that negative email of what I forgot to do, or what somebody said bad about me, or
have a time limit to get things done, or have to be done by a certain time, or do it in this style, or make sure it's this way, or say this or don't say that, or make sure this album cover looks like that.
Life gets in the way of life, and I try to when I'm alone here before the family awakens, I find that's my most productive. Before 10 o'clock, and then I'm pretty much done. Then I do the mountain bike thing, and then the power nap, and then the Americans start calling at about 6 p.m. That starts. So then I go from them till about 10, and then I'm done. I just go to bed.
That's a full day, every day.
Yeah, every day.
Yeah. No, that's what it is. It keeps you young.
Well, that's what they say, but I don't know if it's true.
Well, I don't know. Maybe if you're not young, your voice sure is. Let me ask you a couple of things about the new record here. So first of all, the cover of Love Hurts. It's man, at the end where that voice, I know the original by Dan McCafferty, Nazareth, that he gets pretty high at the end there. You went for that, and boy, did you reach it and then some. I'm going to be honest with you, David. I didn't think at this stage you could actually reach that high. Not that I was expecting it, but I heard it and I was like, wow, what the hell?
Thank you. You are the first guy that mentioned that.
Well, I want to know how you do. I want to know how you did that.
I did that song in one take. I want to kind of bring something into that. McCafferty's always been one of my favorite singers, and then of course I covered tons of Nazareth songs when I started out, and he had just passed.
Yeah, we lost him. Yeah,
and a friend of mine who I started playing with music with, named Bryn Arns in Minneapolis. We had a band called Obsession, and we started. He wrote "Wind at My Back" with me, and "The Good Die Young" Part 2. He said, "Dave, I think you should do a Nazareth song, but you should do it double time, up tempo." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Because the original's in 40 BPM.
Yeah, it's super slow.
Let's kick it up to 80. Can you do it?" I said, "I'll try." So he recorded all that in the demo, and I went in and sang in one take. I just let it. I'd already sang a track for the album. My voice is in that place. So I said, "Go ahead, Ricardo, run it." And I did it, and he looked at me like, "Damn, that's good." I go, "Come on, we can do it better." He goes, No, listen. And I went, "Hey, hats off to McCafferty. That's my tribute to you, brother."
Oh, that's nice. Did you know you were going to go for that though? Did you know did you just let it rip and you were going to go and try to reach that high note?
I'm a one song a day guy. I'll go sing 2 or 3 hours and then work on the next one the next day, give it everything. But I'd kind of done this. I forget what song it was that I'd sang that day. It was in the lower register and I still had voice. So I said, "Let's do another one." And he goes, "Which one?" I go, "Love Hurts." And he kind of looked at me like, "Are you sure? That's way up there." And I said, "Yeah, I can do it. But thanks, I appreciate it."
Oh, it's one of the things I noticed right away. I'm like, wow. I mean, I was surprised. I know your voice always has sounded good, and you mentioned it publicly. You quit drinking several years ago now, so you said that kind of helped as well too. But still, as we age, we've seen it a tons of times, and no shame in it. If you couldn't reach some of the notes you reached on "Eat the Heat" or "Bangalore" on the first record, there, it would be no shame if you couldn't reach some of those, because some of those are ungodly, and they're probably done 3, 4, 5 takes. So the fact that you did this now, I was really surprised, and I thought, my God, does he still have a voice after that?
There's still some steam left. I mean, I did a solo show in Bulgaria a couple of weeks ago, and I did it live, and it was there. Wow. Rainy night. I think moisture is helpful. If it's really hot and brutal, I don't know if I could do it, but
yeah.
I do struggle with some of those stratospheric notes that I used to hit. Obviously, I'll be 63 in August. But I look at guys like Halford and Glenn Hughes and stuff, and Paul Rogers. It's just taking care of your instrument.
Mm-hmm. Glenn Hughes is out of control. It's hard to believe at his age what he can do, especially all he's put himself through, vocally and otherwise. I mean, it's insane what he does. Yeah, can't believe it.
I mean, yeah, it's a gift from God.
There's no other way to describe it. Yeah,
it's spiritual, man. I mean, that guy. It's just natural. It's DNA.
Mm-hmm. The song "If the Good Die Young" Part 2, is that an actual Part 2 to "If the Good Die Young" from the first record, or is that a whole new written song? It sounded different, but with the same title. Tell me about that one a little bit.
Funny story, goes back to Bryn, the guy I just mentioned. When I was fired from Accept, I had the momentum. People knew who I was finally, and I'd gone back to Minnesota. And I was floundering for a couple of days going, what am I going to do? I said, I got to go to LA and put together a band, which turned into Bangalore Choir. And I knew this guy, Rusty, who was the original drummer in Bangalore. He said, I got a van, let's go. So him and his girlfriend and I got in the van. We're driving and we're talking about ideas. And he was connected to Howard Kaufman and Whitesnake and Stevie Nicks and all these people from Hurricane Alice, because he had just been fired from Hurricane Alice. How I met him. I knew Ian anyways from Minnesota, and Bruce and those guys. But
it was Ian that was in Hurricane Alice, right? Was it Ian Mayo? Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that band, so I'm just trying to get the timeline right.
Yeah, they're actually doing that same gig I did in Hamburg. I think the summer show.
They're back together, I think, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
They broke up and they're back. I think I saw that they're back together. Yeah. A band
Yeah,
that
yeah.
unfortunately a lot of people don't know, but if people listening can go check them out, they should. It's a good
Yeah, I
band.
remember
Yeah.
Bruce, the singer. He was a bass player in a band called Grand Slam back in the late '70s. I used to go see them in
Wow.
Wisconsin
Mm.
because you could drink when you were 18 in Wisconsin and across the bridge from Minneapolis, and all of us were 17. So we'd go over there and watch that band, and he was playing a Rickenbacker and you know, doing backgrounds, and then he was the front man for Hurricane Alice. Well, long story short, after I had left Bryn, he kept Obsession together, and they wrote a song called "If the Good Die Young Will Live Forever." So Rusty said, you know, I got this song title idea that I stole from Bryn. It's called "If the Good Die Young Will Live Forever." I said, that's a cool song title. So we met up with John Kirk after a few weeks, and I had kind of started scribbling that idea with that title. I'd never heard that version that's on this album, Thunderman. I never heard Obsession's version ever. And I started singing it, you know, the idea, and John Kirk grabbed the paper and he basically finished the song in 15 minutes, the original one. And I went, whoa. So Bryn said, for shits and giggles, let's do a part 2. Why don't you record my version, the fast one? So we've got the Queen kind of harmonies, you know.
Yeah.
Da, 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 da.
So it's a cover, but it's not a cover of the original Bangalore Choir song. It's a cover of the Obsession song. Wow. So that's the other cover. Oh, wow. Wow. I'm glad I asked. That's amazing.
And Bryn was instrumental in me doing the Nazareth song in double time. And bringing up Bryn real quick before I forget, we're going to do some shows in October in Minnesota. We have a project called The Spirit of 76, and it's going to be all cover songs from that era. We've got Tommy Dades on bass from Tommy Lee's band. We've got Lance Sabin from Slave Raider. Keith Johnson on drums, who's in a Bad Company tribute band, and he actually sings lead too, just like Paul Rogers.
Nice.
And Bryn
still
on
sounds
guitar.
great. Nice.
Yeah. And so we're going to do this thing. We've already sold out the first show, and if it works, it'll kind of be like a Rock the Vault thing a couple times a year in the United States. We're going to tour around, and we've already had show offers, but what they want to do is validate it by seeing the audience on film, you know, with the EPK and all that stuff. Yeah. So we're kind of slowly trickling into it. But Brent and I were laughing the other night. Go, isn't it funny? We were, you know, zitty-faced kids at 17, and we've both been around the world multiple times. And here we are back in the rehearsal room in Minneapolis playing the same cover song we started out.
All comes full circle.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And so that's what I'm going to do in October. So.
Yeah, for those who haven't heard, because it's a long one, I do encourage people to go listen to our first conversation. It's a good one. It's a long one. It's all about your life. This is your life, David Reece. But if you want a condensed version of just Bangalore Choir, we'll talk about it now. So you kind of touched on that at the start of it already. So you were in Minnesota, right? When you guys decided to move up and start getting the band together. Is that correct?
Yeah. Okay. I had left Accept. Got in a van, drove straight to LA with the guy that was hooked up with Stevie Nicks and her manager.
Yes.
Blah, blah, blah. Found John Kirk at GIT. And we went through a plethora of guitarists and different people. And Kurt Mitchell had played with John in Razor Maid. Mm-hmm. And he said, why don't we just get Kurt? So Kurt came down and I was floored. So I said, now we have the band. And Danny Greenberg came from GIT too. He was a bass instructor there. And so, in LA,
Well, let me just ask you there. So I think, so do I have it right? So Danny played on the record and Ian was part of the band but left. How did that work out? Or am I jumping ahead too far?
Management, one of the biggest mistakes of my life. Management, Hurricane Alice was managed by the same entity. They had been dropped from Atlantic. And in order to save some of those people, management came to me and said, we're going to put Ian and Jackie in Bangalore Choir.
Jackie was the drummer, Jackie Ramos.
Yes, who I've known since 1976.
Right.
Amazing drummer, great singer. But being the corporate dumbass that I was, thinking, I got to follow the rules, I went to the band with the manager and said, here's the deal. We're dumping Danny and Derek, and we're bringing in Ian and Jackie. Curtis flipped out. He said, that's one of the reasons why I told you earlier, he just doesn't want any part of this game.
Right.
Because he's very close to Danny. They were like brothers. So it was a real slap in the face, the corporate move. And it wasn't about us, it was about hair and him, the manager, protecting other interests besides ours. And he really was not very kind to Ian when he walked in, about his ability and stuff. I mean, Kurt was very resentful about going along with that. That put a big divide in the band.
Did people blame you for that? Did they think that was your decision?
I don't really never took any blame for that. Only internally. The rest of the guys got along pretty good with Ian and Jackie, especially John. And I knew Jackie for years. But Kurt took it real personal, and it drove a wedge. But the album had already been recorded, and then the shows began. And the way the band had already been signed prior to that change. We got signed after 9 shows in Los Angeles, which it goes over a period of about 9 months, nearly a year in Hollywood. But at that time, I had an offer from every major label that was around. And I had gone to see Michael Schenker at the Palace. Herman Rarebell from the Scorpions invited me to join the band. And of course, my band were like, oh God, the Scorpions, because I kind of knew them from the Accept days. So we went. And as I was walking in to the backstage area, being led up the back stairs, Kevin Moran from Giant walked out and said, hey, I hear some really big things are happening. You're being offered. I said, yeah, if you don't jump on the train, you're going to miss out, Kevin. He said, be in my office tomorrow morning, Warner Brothers, and let's talk about a deal. So we went right into Warner Brothers, and I think within a couple of days, we had a pretty large deal confirmed. It didn't take long at all. I mean, we were drawing people, second, third show. We were filling rooms, and
this is still 91, early 92.
Yeah, 90, 91, and
right after 90,
I mean, K&AC was hugely behind us, and Tawn Mastery, bless God rest her soul. We did the album release party at the Whiskey A Go Go.
Oh wow!
With K&AC, and it was filmed for ABC in concert, and it was completely full. There is footage of that.
I was going to ask you if there's footage out there on YouTube or somewhere. I'd love to see it. I was too young to see that. I'd love to see that now. That'd be great.
Yeah, madness. I mean, everybody and their brother was there. I mean, famous people, fans. I mean, it was pretty nuts. And kicked off with that, and then we were in line to do the Slip of the Tongue tour support act with Whitesnake because we had the same manager. And the rumor I was told was Coverdale was struggling vocally in those days. It was starting, and he had heard Howard was pretty excited about us, Howard Kaufman, and played him a few songs. He said, "No way, I'm not doing it." And the story I was told was Coverdale was threatened by my vocal ability and him suffering. And he said, we're going to take a European band in Europe and Asia. We lost 40 shows literally in a click of a finger. And Howard told me, oh, it's the greatest compliment in the world. You should be proud of this. We'll get you another tour. We were devastated. So then we went out with Lynch Mob, and Oni had just left, and they had Robert Mason and done that album. I think we did Mexico, West Coast, bunch of club dates.
That's a good package too. Especially now to think about it back 30 years ago. That's a good package to have. Yeah. Robert's an amazing singer, still is. That's amazing.
Yeah, amazingly. Awesome. I mean, he's one of those guys that's stood the test of time. And he had just gotten in the band, released a new album with them, so it was a little shaky with them. They were unsure. George was whoever George is, what day depends,
Yeah. So I've heard. Never spoke to the man, never met him, but so I've heard.
And full circle. Speaking of that, we did the Firefest show that I was telling you about earlier when I met Curtis in Heathrow, and we had to have 3 original members. And after touring with Lynch Mob back in the 90s, Kurt and George, Curtis worshiped George. George always kept him on a leash,
Yeah.
And Kurt makes his own guitar picks. They're metal, and he puts his name on them and stamps them. And he plays with metal picks. And we got in the van with Lynch Mob. We're playing the same show in England, and we're driving down the M1 or whatever it is. And George starts bumming cigarettes from the bass player. And Kurt reached in his pocket and said, "George, I made you a guitar pick." And George looked at it and threw it out the window.
George is a ball buster. So,
and Kurt stood up and said, "I will never listen to another George Lynch lick as the rest of my life." And Danny stood up, and said, "You'll never get another free cigarette from me." It was an awkward bus drive. It was about a 3-hour ride to the venue. And
Unreal.
George just kind of looked at him and went, "Okay, whatever."
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, so that's what we had. And then,
That's amazing.
Sadly, all of a sudden we shipped pretty strong, and we had a hit on the radio with Loaded Gun. And
was it a gold record, I think? Did it get gold?
No.
No? I thought it did.
No, we did about 300.
Oh, yeah.
Which technically
back then is a huge failure. Unfortunately, now it'd be a #1 pop hit. If you were 300,000, you'd be laughing. You'd be Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift would be opening for us.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
not even kidding. It's crazy. It's crazy.
And so, I mean, we went from meetings and $50 bowls of chili and huge restaurants and recording new demos at Stevie's house, Stevie Nicks, to literally being told it's over, get a day job.
By the same guy that signed you guys.
Yeah. I mean, it was like this cancer grew overnight for hard rock bands, pop metal bands. We kind of cut our own head off, dye your hair blonde, and everybody had that kind of look. And I think it was time. I always kind of knew that grunge would only last a few years, but not to that extent that it got so big. The funny thing I find about grunge here in Italy is like it's resurged again.
Oh, really?
Chris Cornell, Eddie Vedder, these guys are like all the young kids, including
are just discovering it, right? Yeah.
Well, they knew about it, but now they're really back into it. So it does say something about that music, Nirvana, all those bands. But we literally went from Mount Everest to the Grand Canyon in about 6 weeks. And I remember being at a pool party about a month after we were dropped and all that happened. And Janie Lane was in the kitchen, Piercy was in the kitchen, and all of us were just standing around with our heads down, like, what just happened? I mean, Janie sold 6 million records. Yeah. Rat sold 10 million records. I mean, we're all standing around going, we're the Antichrist, and people went from wearing leather pants and spiked hair to like the next month everybody's wearing a flannel shirt and combat shorts and combat boots.
Yeah, exactly.
It was crazy. I mean, it was like insane, and I don't blame anybody but the music industry for that, and the bands that the corporate thing, like I said, getting rid of 2 solid members to make the band prettier, more hair, save this entity to bring this in, and protecting themselves. But I can tell you, as soon as a band is dropped, those guys that are taking you out to those nice dinners and shaking your hand and picking you up in fancy cars, they don't take your phone calls.
No.
Hard lesson.
Yeah, exactly. Do you think it's, a lot of people say it's Nirvana and the bands that came in there, but do you think it's also part of it that the record labels were signing a bunch of, like you mentioned, Rat, the Motley Crues, the Poisons, now a bunch of record labels, well, that's a hit, so let's get another band that sounds like that but doesn't have the same substance, and they're just kind of watering it down over and over. Do you think that kind of killed it more than anything? People were just sick of the same sounding shit.
Yeah, we did. I mean, every frontman after David Lee Roth kicked the door down.
Looked like David Lee Roth, exactly.
Yeah, and then you had Vince Neil. So everybody in the Bret Michaels had dyed blonde hair.
Yeah.
Spandex, party songs, whoa, whoa, baby, baby, and that's why I don't write songs like that at my age, because it would be ridiculous. People would laugh at me. But I think the fans, the kids, the culture switched. Seattle was this rainy, soggy town that nobody really talked about except for the Seahawks or the Mariners and fishing.
Yeah.
And there was an underground going on there that nobody heard about until Mother Love Bone.
That's true. There's a band that doesn't get mentioned a lot too, but I forgot about Andrew Wood. He has another band that people
Well,
forgot. Well, because we lost him so soon, right? That's probably
yeah, he
why.
was
But
one of the first casualties
casualties
in
of
the
that.
bathroom.
Yeah, exactly.
But Stone Gossard was in that band
Yeah.
from Pearl Jam. A couple of those guys played with Andy.
Yep.
And, you know, all of those guys were kind of like my Minneapolis days. We're all bros living in the same band house. And, you know, the Alice in Chains were all playing together. And then it just kind of took off. And when record companies are like sharks, they smell blood, they're going for the attack. And we were the enemy. And record sales literally stopped for us.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was back when the CD long box. I mean, I still have one from Bangalore because they didn't understand how to put them in the vinyl shelves. So they made this long box where you could thumb through it. You know,
Yeah.
I mean,
Wow.
that was the logic behind that. Tell me when the last time you saw a new car these days that had a built-in CD player like they did in the 80s and 90s. You don't see it.
They're getting rid of them. Apparently, I think my car might be the last one. It's from 10 years ago, so that's probably the last. So an old relic.
Yeah. I mean, so
although I hear they're coming back, but we'll see. Because people complain. I hope
your
so.
Listeners buy physical.
Oh, me too.
Yesterday I got somehow Spotify missed the release date yesterday, but all the other streaming platforms have the new BC, New Bangalore.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how many people wrote me yesterday, it's not on Spotify. And I'm like, what? There was a glitch. So it told me that most of the people are leaning to the downloading and streaming services, which breaks my heart. It breaks my heart.
That sucks. That's terrible. People go out to get the physical copy, support the hard work that went into it, support the bands, the music, the writers, everyone who's been a part of it. And you get the cool cover art too. You get a whole bunch of things you can't download the lyrics, you can't download the image art where you can, but it's not the same. It's nothing like holding that thing in your hands and looking at it and checking every little detail out. Music geeks like me love it. And if you want to do that, doesn't take much. Just do it.
I really find it hard to believe major artists saying they embrace digital downloading and streaming. They're just doing it to stay relevant because they know.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I watched a podcast the other night with Derek Trucks. You know who he is.
Yep.
Famous family, Allman Brothers. I mean, all that. I mean, and he's playing with his wife for years. And he said, records don't sell anymore. We have to play 300 shows a year.
That's the thing.
Kids. And he said, and I just went, oh my God, you know, this guy's saying that. And he said, well, you know, laughing, he goes, our CDs sell a little bit at shows. You know, our fans will bring mostly Allman Brothers records that I was on, he said, but our new albums don't sell. And I was like, oh my God.
You used to do a CD to sell a tour. Now it's a tour to sell a CD. You do the live show, and then hopefully people will like what they heard on the stage and they'll buy a CD. Before that, it was to get the song on the radio so you could actually get them on tour. Complete.
And CDs were like an alien object when they came out to me. I like, what is this? I mean, I'm a vinyl guy.
Well, if you grew up in the vinyl or cassette era like me, then it was like, what is this digital? Look at this weird, colorful thing when you turn it around. This rainbow bright thing that. What is that, right?
Yeah, and then after 10 years, they bronze and you can't play them. They don't last.
Yeah.
So
and they're still digital too. People forget about that. They're physical media, but you can still digitize. It's still digital format. You can still put them on your computer. You can put them on your iPod. That doesn't exist anymore. But you know what I mean? You can still take them around everywhere. They're still transportable. It's not like a vinyl. You have to carry the box around. You know what I mean? So CD is the way to go. Physical product or vinyl. Is there vinyl for this new record? Did you make? I know it's hard.
Sadly,
it's expensive.
Sadly,
but no. Okay.
AFM, you know, with Iron Allies, yeah. But it's always
I knew that.
500 copies, 2 different colors, because there are the purists that refuse to buy CDs. They want vinyl, and they may never play it. I mean, I've signed Eat the Heat records that were
just put them on their wall. They don't even play them. They just have them sitting there.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. And I've signed original copies unopened on the cellophane of Eat the Heat. Bangalore.
It's not good for a record. You have for Eat the Heat. Wow. I wouldn't mind having a copy of that. Not your signature, but I'm talking about the actual Eat the Heat record. I wouldn't mind having that on vinyl. That's a great record, obviously.
They reissued it a couple of years ago, right when I did Udo's Steel Factory tour. It was in orange vinyl, and they made 2,000 copies, and it sold out. And it was really weird because of all the haters that I had.
Does Wolf know that?
that it was re-released. I'm
Well,
sure he was,
and that it's sold
I'm sure
out.
he had a, yeah, I'm sure he's had a hand in it, and he's happy about the sales, you know.
Don't ask him about it.
Yeah, but exactly, you
Boy.
know, it's
Unreal.
not something we talk about. There's probably a lot more subjects we'd have to touch on before we got to that.
Yeah.
But,
This is about Bangalore Choir for sure.
but yeah, I mean that album, it's weird. My career, you know, it's like on target Bangalore Choir. I mean, 30 years later, people are saying it's their favorite album that I've done, and they come to my shows with the original one, and I sign it. Or Eat the Heat reissues when they say, "Oh, I hated your guts, but this really grew on me," and I'm like, "Well."
Because you didn't give it a chance the
Late.
first time around. You did
Yeah,
what the media told you to do, and you just didn't eat it
yeah,
up. You didn't eat the heat. Now you're eating it.
yeah.
Yeah. Now you're
Better
eating it
late than
cold.
never.
Yeah, you're eating it cold, but it's still good.
Yeah. You know, it's a leftover pizza from the party of Friday night on Sunday
Eat
afternoon.
the pizza, eat the leftovers. You could do a reissue called "Eat the Leftovers."
Yeah, maybe I'll do an album called Leftovers. I don't know.
Yeah, little demos there. Two
Yeah.
more things. I'll let you go to bed. It's late there, I'm sure. It's
No,
3 o'clock
only
now.
3:30. Yeah.
Yeah,
I got a
not so
couple
bad.
hours left before
There
I
you
have
go.
to retire.
That's what I thought. For the masters for the original Bangalore, you did the 3-pack, the 3 CDs, the 3 records together. So do I take it you have the masters for all 3 albums? You own the
I
collection
do.
now, and you
I
can
do.
control it and put it places and do things with it.
Yeah, we're free. I mean,
Yeah.
when the label Giant folded, everybody retired, and many of them sadly have passed away. I mean, Howard Kaufman was in his 70s when I met him. Irving Azoff, I think he's still around. But yeah, I mean, we own the property rights and all that stuff. And then when I found all those demos that, you know, were being held hostage, I was shocked about how many great songs we wrote that the label said, no, not that one, put this one on. I mean, like, come on, man, that's, you know, but I finally got to release them. Ricardo remixed it and mastered it for me. So I have that stuff.
Yeah, so I got to check those out. I want to hear those because there was one. It was the On Target. It was re-released just on its own, right? And then they had the 3-pack, the 3 box set. Is that how it went out? Because it was the
it's
bang.
been out
It was,
a couple times.
yeah, because it was the gray cover. It was the same. I think you took the girl that was on the cover off, and it was just the torpedo and the darker cover, like a grayer cover. I think that was the re-release.
Yeah, I had to do that from manager was married to the model that was on the cover, and I did not want to get sued because they were going through a divorce. And I said, if I re-release that cover, somebody's going to come fishing.
Someone's knocking at your door. Yeah, exactly. You mentioned, of course, I can't. I'll ask you this about Accept, about the back in the day. Did you? You didn't play that many shows. It wasn't that long of a tour. Do you remember? Was anything ever recorded professionally that you did with the band, recording, playing their old songs, the old catalog? Anything out there that people could check out, or is that just kind of gone with the wind?
There's video out of a show in Colorado Springs of us.
Good quality, like actual
VHS. There's a couple pieces from the Wasp tour we did. But there may be stuff floating around that, because before the Wasp tour, we did like a 38 show club tour to get the band tight. We had set A, B, C, and Wolf would say set A tonight or set B. I mean, we were so rehearsed that, I mean, that band is a Panzer tank. I mean, that's just how they are.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But we went out and were just crushing it in the clubs. And then the Wasp tour, they weren't doing so well with, I think it was the Headless Children.
Headless Children. Yeah, it was 89. Headless Children. Yeah, right. Yeah. Chris, I think Chris was almost out of the band, or Chris Holmes was almost out of the band, or out of the band at that time.
Well, he was out of the band, but he was still on stage, and he and I were the 2 black sheep of the tour. So we developed a great brotherhood. To this day, he's one of my best friends. So
that's cool. That's good.
I love the guy to death. He's healthy now. Got over the cancer.
Yeah, that's true too. If people don't know, he had cancer. I think it was throat cancer. I don't want to guess at that, but I think it was something. It was pretty severe. Yeah, I'm glad to see he's on the other side of that. Yeah,
you don't never get on the other side of that too easy. But he beat it.
No,
and he's playing live now. He's out playing.
Yep, that's good. It's good to see. It's very cool. Was there any leftover songs from that period that you know of? I know obviously the Accept Camp, Gabby, everyone would control that. You wouldn't have that, but do you know if anything was left over they recorded that never got the right? I know D Train or one of those songs was a leftover put on the CD, but anything else that you know of? I think it was D Train. I could be wrong, but
D Train was on the album, but I don't know. I know we recorded a ton of songs, but I can't remember. It's been 30 something years ago.
Yeah, almost 40.
Peter Baltus was one of the main songwriters in that band, him and the drummer, Stephen Kaufman. And they had tons of
for
ideas.
that record.
Yeah. I mean, the first song that I sang was Turn the Wheel Around. The title was Turn the Wheel. And I was like, Peter just threw the 2-inch tape on the machine and said, here's an idea. I call it Turn the Wheel. Write something, sing it. I'm like, what? He's like, so I just sat in a demo studio with him and we just scribbled the lyrics down and I sang it. And then each guy would come in and listen at night and decide if I had the right voice for what they were doing. And they picked me. I mean, that's one thing people don't remember. I didn't hire myself. So
you said that last time. I remember that was a good quote. You said that you didn't hire yourself. It's true. I mean, they picked you. They picked an American singer. They wanted that American radio, and they got it. Well, they didn't get it, but you know what I mean. They got what they wanted.
I still play D-Train, Ecstasy, Generation Clash, and Hellhammer at all my shows.
Yeah, they're classics for you. People know them for your catalog, right? They're big as anything else you've done.
They love it. I mean, play it every night. I play.
I'm kind of surprised. I was going to say I was surprised what you just said, though. You said that Peter and I knew they were the main songwriters, but you didn't mention Wolf. I'm surprised. Did he not write as much on that record in the studio? Was he just not there? I'm kind of surprised.
He was there, but I mean, he's a great guitar player. But in all honesty, what I witnessed was Peter and Stephen were the glue of the songwriting team that wrote a lot of those classics. I mean, he would put his riffs on it and make it Wolf Hoffman. But from my experience, it was Peter was always diddling around with ideas, and I'm happy that he's out with Udo now. He's back playing with Udo.
Yeah,
that's
didn't see that coming.
Yeah, I kind of did, but I mean,
I guess. Well, I guess you can. You can kind of see it. You can not see it coming, and then if you really stop and think about it for 2 seconds, you can see it coming.
Business wise, great move.
Yeah. That's something else.
I thought he was going to be in Mick Mars's band because I think he played on that new solo album.
I heard that, yeah. Other Side of Mars, I think it's called, something like that. It's going to come out eventually. Yeah, can't wait for that. Yeah.
Another Side. I think he was part of that.
I heard that too. Yeah.
I was not overly surprised that Udo snatched him up. Publicly and image wise, and doing the Dirk Schneider tour where they only
exactly. You couldn't. There's no other better move. All that Peter could have said was no, but for Udo not to ask would have been silly, insane. I mean, there's a perfect opportunity sitting right there. They did that other project too. They had one, the Old Friends or the Young Friend, whatever it's called, as well too. He's sitting right there.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
And it works, and they're on tour right now. I mean, I wish Peter and Udo nothing but success.
I know you've talked to him in the past, Peter, I'm talking about, but have you stayed in any kind of regular contact with Peter Baltus?
Not heavily. I'm talked more to his wife than Peter directly, but I went to see Accept on the Rise of Chaos tour. He invited me from the label. I think
that was his last record, I think, right?
I'm not sure, but
maybe, yeah.
I was invited backstage, and I really wasn't sure how Wolf would react because I went to the front of the stage and Peter saw me, and the label invited me, and Peter threw a pic, and my wife caught it, and he was smiling at me, making faces, and so halfway through the set, I'm thinking this could go either way. Wolf could be really weird to me or a gentleman and welcome me backstage. I'm not taking that risk. So I left. Next day, the record company's calling me going, where did you go? Why didn't you come backstage? And I was completely honest. I said, I didn't know how he'd react. I wanted to see Peter, give him a hug. And they're like, oh, no, everything was cool. And I'm like, maybe to you, but I had my wife with me, and some friends, and I just didn't feel comfortable. I mean, I've been in interviews in Europe at radio stations, and Wolf has, and I don't know why. I mean, it's kind of like the Megadeth Mustaine Hetfield thing. I mean, I had a woman in Milan interview me, and she had done a whole page of questions regarding the Eat the Heat era in a Wolf Hoffman interview on this big radio station. And he looked at it and he pushed it back to her. He goes, I refuse to talk about that. So that was right before I went to the Milan show. So she spent most of the interview talking to me about Eat the Heat. And
Right.
I always thought it was kind of weird. It's like part of your past. Why do you have to run from it? I mean, you should be proud of some of the guitar. I actually listened to the album the other day and I went, you know, if we'd have put the heavier guitars and gone more on the Ecstasy D-Train vibe, that may have been a little bit more commercially successful. We went to left field, and we maybe have changed the name of the band and come out as a new band, but we still had the brand, you know.
The brand name, yeah, from a business standpoint, that one
same as Bangalore.
Yeah.
Same as Victory. I mean, you can't, trying to break a new band in these times is really tough.
Mm-hmm.
So Bangalore is a brand name, and that was pushed down my throat, which I completely agree with. And when grunge just destroyed basically AOR, I had no idea that Bangalore was really successful in UK and Europe. So
wow, that's good.
It had kind of crept over here, the grunge scene, about 2 years after we kind of wore off it. So when I play Loaded Gun or I play, you know, Angel in Black, people know the words and they sing it. And when I played England with the old guys, I couldn't believe it. People were like, I've been waiting to see this band for 19 years. Like I said before, had I known that we were still viable, I would have put the band on a plane, gypsied it, slept on couches, and played every shit house I could have found and kept the band alive. But I was told, it's over. Get a day job.
Yeah, exactly. You had no reason to think otherwise. Yeah, exactly. You had no reason to think otherwise, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
exactly. Well, there was something I was going to say about that too. Oh yeah. So okay, a couple last things then. So the Bangalore Choir from the first CD, we mentioned Steve Plunkett, but you also worked on one song with John Bon Jovi and Aldo Nova, which I didn't actually realize it was them until I went back a few times and re-listened again. I'm like, that's Aldo in the background, a little bit of JBJ, but mostly Aldo on Doing the Dance, the song I'm talking about. Were they in the same studio with you at the same time? Did they write with you? How did that experience go?
I met them, and John was doing the Young Guns soundtrack.
Yeah, something like that.
I went down to A&M Studios with the manager, and he was trying to revive Aldo's career because Aldo really helped John in the early days.
Wow.
Aldo had gotten clean, and they played a few songs and played Doing the Dance, and I went, that could be cool. We could make something out of that.
They already had the song and they were going to put it on your record? They already
had it recorded.
Okay.
And Bon Jovi said, well, this is pretty cool. And then Aldo was just kind of sitting there, and it was a brief encounter. John looked like he warmed over death. He'd been working for months on that soundtrack and huge record, you know, Blaze of Glory and stuff. But it was a brief encounter, and it doesn't hurt to have a Bon Jovi song on your record and Aldo. And I'm good friends with Jack Frost, who's now playing with Aldo.
Okay. Yeah.
They're touring. Jack did some Sabotage touring, and
yes, in the early 2000s. Yeah, Jack Frost in 2001, I think he was there for a bit before that went into TSO. Yeah.
Yep. So Jack's playing with Aldo now. Aldo's doing good. They're doing a few U.S. dates, and funny thing, I got some friends in the Midwest. They're playing like 2 shows in their area, and I called Jack. I said, I got a gang of people wanting to come meet the band. So Jack was just like, so welcoming, man. Give me his email. So these kids are going, they're not kids, but they're, oh my God, we get to see Aldo, you know.
We're acting like kids. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Think you'll look at me?
yeah. But I mean, they're going to have dinner and probably Jack will introduce them to the band. And that's cool. Jack's great.
It's good after Aldo's been in the 90s, of course, in the background, kind of writing for people like Celine Dion, other people. It's good he's stepping back out there. He had a new EP come out recently, too. Life and Times of Eddie Gage, I think. He's got some new stuff out there. He's trying to get back into it, and it's not the same as it was 30, 40 years ago. But if he gets out there, he's got a unique voice, got a unique style. I hope he keeps that Montreal spirit alive.
Did he write Runaway for John Bon Jovi? I think he was part of it.
He's on that record. I don't think he wrote that. I think he wrote some of the album tracks that are on there. She Don't Know Me was another song that was written for them that wasn't theirs, but I don't think he's on Runaway. I think he plays on it, but I don't think he wrote it. It's kind of weird. I'd have to go back and look. There's a thing about that. He's on it, not all of it. It's different. It's but I don't think it's Runaway, no. I think that's all John and somebody else. Yeah. if I have my music geeky timeline in correct. Yeah.
It's
How
been
do
a
you know
long
all
time
this
ago.
stuff? Yeah. How do you know all this stuff? Yeah. Last question in
Yeah.
regards to touring to Iron Allies. So talk to me about Iron Allies. Any more records, tours? What's going on live show wise for you as we
Got some new songs in the works.
move on?
We just confirmed the major festival called Grass Pop, Brussels,
Nice.
Belgium, for next
Yep.
spring. Huge festival. And another huge one in Czech Republic. We work with RTN Touring, Rock the Nation. They're booking us. We got through the bottleneck of 2023. We played a couple of Swiss shows this year. We played Japara Rock in Bulgaria. I put out a live video of that a couple of weeks ago. And amazingly, once these promoters saw that and the audience, the phone started ringing. So they, it's a validation that it's not just a project. But Herman and I are, tossing ideas around. I adore his guitar playing. He's a great writer, and so far, this is starting to look really prosperous for us early next year. Also, solo, I'm going out with Bangalore Choir and my Italian backing band. We're going out in January, Switzerland, and then we're doing some shows in Scandinavia with Blaze Bailey.
Oh, good. He's recovered then?
Yeah, he looks fabulous. I mean, he's one of the nicest, hardest working guys on the planet, which will be really good. Ex Iron Maiden, ex Accept singer kind of thing. They're billing it as. So we're playing
big X in the middle.
Yeah,
big X in the middle.
But nobody's going to stop me. I don't care, and nobody's going to stop Blaze. So
yeah,
that's what we got planned.
It's good to hear you're back doing live shows. Anything for the U.S. coming up as far as Bangalore or
the Spirit of '76, like I mentioned earlier.
Right.
I'm going to be doing a cover tribute to that era of rock and roll. October 20th in Minneapolis. We have a show book confirmed there, sold out, I believe, and a few others in the works. But as I said, with validation, all of the bookers in the U.S. want to see the head count, which will mean I go back, like say every 6 months, do a couple weeks of shows with them, the old gang, and then come back here and continue all this. I also have a solo album completely finished and recorded that I'm kind of shopping around right now. I'm talking to some people about.
Look at you go.
Huh?
Look at you go. There you go.
I did that with my Italian boys, and it's very heavy, very melodic. I've got 13 recorded, mastered, mixed, sitting here on the computer. I've had a few offers for it, but going back to the digital age, the offers on it are just laughable.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Laughable. Yeah, you spend more making the record than you can even recoup. So I've got a couple labels that want it, that we're in negotiation, but I don't want to oversaturate my name, if that's even possible, because I've done it the last few years. But I'm really happy with that album too. But I'm going to really put a lot of heart into Iron Allies and Bangalore. Giles wants me to do another record. So we've kind of written a few ideas for that right now. This seems to be going pretty good. There's a lot of interest in Bangalore. So
yeah, that's good to hear. Did you, I don't know if we just passed over, but did you say, I know it's not easy. You have to kind of get a head count, but do you think there's a chance of getting US shows, American shows for Bangalore Choir?
Not with the European guys. It's possible with an American backing band, because I think we talked about Iron Allies last time. I mean, just the visa cost for the Germans was excess of €2,500.
Yeah.
And there's no guarantee, even though you go through all the cross the T's and dot the I's, that they'll let everybody through.
Yeah.
And the German law, they want to know the fee for every venue and the tax rate for every state we play in. And I literally had 30 plus shows confirmed for Iron Allies. And when we did the numbers, it was in excess of 40,000 just to go.
Wow.
So we all just looked at each other. And plus, with the immigration visa attorney, I asked her flat out, her fee was over €1,000. And I said, does this guarantee entrance? And she said, no. I said, then why would I pay you 1,000 plus to go through all the paperwork? And then Look at Loudness. I mean, they've been sent home 3
They've
times.
been, yeah, exactly. I don't know what's going on there. That's crazy. They couldn't even get on the Monsters of Rock cruise. They tried to get on that. They couldn't get across. I mean, I don't know what's going on there. That's something
Bad
else.
management, or I don't know if the lady at the legal part told me that, say you go through customs and that person is standing there hitting the passport, looking at your paper, might be in a bad mood.
Yeah,
and just
crazy.
say, you're going home. You never know. That's what
Yeah,
she
I
told
know.
me. And I was like, are you kidding? She goes, no, it could be anything.
Unbelievable.
I mean, I was like, the risk is just too heavy.
No, I understand that totally. Before I lose this again, David, it's good to talk to you as always. I like going
You too,
back and
brother.
forth.
Love you, man.
Yeah, I love you too. And I can't wait to, I guess we'll be talking again because you're going to have a bunch more records out. So every time you release a record, I'm going to call you up. Tell me about how this one came about. Tell me how that one came about. It's always good.
I'll keep you updated on the Frontiers thing and AFM with Iron Allies and the solo album and New BC and I ain't dead yet, man. And I thank everybody that listens, and I thank you guys.
But we're playing you this week, actually. We got Iron Allies. We got Blood In, Blood Out is on tonight's show. So make sure you share that shit.
Thank you very much. I'm awesome, on it, bro.
Man. All right. Take care. Take care, David. Talk soon. Take care.
Thank you, bro. Thanks. Ciao.
Bye.